folks, Ariel over here at Nyth. It's raining again, which is awesome, and is why I have time to come sit inside and chat with you all for a minute. I don't know how much it's put down right now. Last couple days it's put down an 1/8 an inch a day, except for the day where we got a 1/2 inch, and a couple days before that where we got that 1.5 inches. So we now have had more moisture in the past, I think it's 5, maybe 6 days now, than the past 4 months combined, and that is wonderful. We are definitely not in as nearly an extreme drought as we were. The grass in places is turning green again. It's been everything just looks so happy. Mature trees were wilting and all that. So this has been wonderful. But it is drizzling outside, which meant all my outside projects got stopped again because it got to raining a little harder than I quite felt like getting that wet. So I thought I'd take a minute to do a video talking a little bit about some of our plans here for the future, because it seems like on every video I get a ton of questions about, are you going to this? Are you going to that? Are you going to build a greenhouse? Are you going to have this? Are you going to build a castle? Nobody actually asked that. But anyway, these are theoretical plans. They're things we hope to do. Are they going to happen next week? Nope. Are they going to happen within the next year? I don't know. But for long-term goals, so where the tiny house here is parked, is kind of, our property's kind of roughly rectangular-ish shaped, not exactly, but pretty close. So if you envision a rectangular shape, but with a skinnier end and a fatter end, the tiny house is toward the skinnier end. It's where the garden is, and so on. It will probably be right in this spot for, I don't know, maybe the rest of its life. Going toward the fatter end is where we started the orchard. I think we got 15 trees in there now. They don't look like a whole lot yet, but hopefully within a few years they will mature up to the point where they're actually making a little bit of shade and a little privacy from this end of the property from that end of the property, which is where we do hope to at some point build a little house together, because this tiny house has been absolutely awesome as far as size and space for just me. When it was just me, it was terrific. Every now and then there would have been something that was nice to have a little extra space for, but I lived in here, by myself for almost 8 years, and I really can't complain about that at all. It worked very well for one person. I know there are lots of people who live as couples in tiny houses. I've got several couples who have children with them as well, and they seem to enjoy it. For me, that gets a little tight, with just not so much the two people being in there, but each having your own stuff and a place to put it as well. And then 2 dogs. Burley's down here sleeping right at my feet right now. Tana's with Clay at work at the moment. Anyhow, so while it works, it's not necessarily what we want to do together forever. So we hope to build a small house. Neither of us are into having a mansion. We just want a place where we can comfortably eat and sleep and lay down and have a few friends over and cook meals and, be out of the weather. Because, like always, my main interests are being outside, gardening, photographing, hiking, things like that. And Clay's main activities are also outside. He's got a lot of building projects and stuff he wants to do, or working in his shop. A lot of his projects need space in there, but not really in the house. And he loves to fish and hunt and things like that. Those are all activities that don't take space inside a house to do. So that's kind of the same for both of us. Neither of us needs a ton of inside space, but we do live in a cold and wet climate, and, well, not normally wet. Normally cold and snowy climate, which is so far below freezing it's not wet. But for that you have lots of layers, and you have boots, and, just between that and having 2 people be able to relax on a couch and lay down comfortably in a bed and turn the whole way around in a shower and things like that, this place is a little snug. So our hope is that at some point we'd like to build a small house. Something in the 600-700 square foot range, so that's very big compared to this, which is just under 200 square feet, but is still massively smaller than the average American house, which I think is now at 3,500 square feet or something. But anyway, we hope to build a small house kind of on the other side of the orchard, on that end of the property. And then, and again, don't keep asking me every week, have we done it yet, because I don't know when this is going to happen. Clay has to have time to do the building, and we have to have lumber prices come back somewhere within our budget level. So there's no hard and fast plans for when that's going to happen. For now, this works. We're in here and it's okay. But anyway, then this would probably become the guest house, because we both have friends and family that come over and such. And so we'd each have, it takes you 20 seconds or whatever to walk between the two, but where you could have friends over that you could actually give them their own space, since the other house isn't still going to be very big, and, be able to have a little privacy from each other as well. And there will probably be a bigger garden beside the little house. The one beside the tiny house will stay, but I've wanted for a long time to have some more garden space, so I'll probably build even more there, and then I'll have gardens on both sides of the orchard. The chickens and ducks are out running around. We'll have to do an update on those soon. You're going to start seeing some stuff about putting up Clay's shop. As far as a greenhouse, this is still a cold climate. I know there's a whole lot of new subscribers around here because people have been asking questions that clearly haven't been following videos for years. If you are new, welcome. And if you want to know some of the past history, go check out, I think there's almost 600 videos now on the channel. And I've got them also sorted by, if you want to see all the gardening ones or all the cooking ones or all the firewood ones or whatever, they're sorted by topic as well. But you can also just see all of them through history if you click on the little videos tab or uploads tab. Anyway, this is most of the time a cold and snowy climate. It is summer right now and it's thundering and raining. I don't know if you can hear the thunder rolling in the background or not. But that does mean it's cold for much of the year. Winter usually starts here the end of September into October, somewhere in there, and goes through April, May, or June, depending on the year. And by winter, I know some people have been asking a question about, why don't you plant this or that cover crop during the winter? Those of you who have been around here for a while probably know the answer to that. Winter here is not just cooler than 90 degrees. It's where there's snow this steep, this steep, this steep that doesn't leave for months and months. We get temperatures regularly down to minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's 62 degrees below freezing. Nothing at all grows in the winter here, period. There's no such thing as planting cover crops. Many things people plant as cover crops in warmer areas I couldn't even grow in the summer here. This summer has been unusually hot, but it is still in this area very normal to get frosts and freezes through the summer. The most recent, despite all the heat, the most recent killing freeze was June 10th and 11th. I think we had two nights there in a row where it froze hard. So a greenhouse would definitely let me, and it's something I've wanted for a long time. It made no sense to do in a location that I always knew was going to be temporary, but it is something I've wanted in my long-term plans for quite a while. Due to the snow loads and stuff that come in this area, probably a hooped greenhouse is not really the way to go. They don't tend to hold up very well under massive amounts of snow weight. But what I would like to do is, once we build a little house, so again, this is all in the future. Don't ask me if it's done next week, because it won't be. What I'd like to do is have, this faces south, but which is where the sun is in the winter. We are far enough north that the sun's fairly low in the horizon in the winter, and so south facing is the sunny side in the winter, and I'd like to put a little sunroom greenhouse onto that wall of the house that opens into the house for several reasons. I've worked in greenhouses before in my life, and I know what it's like to deal with having to maintain heat however you do it, whether you do it through a wood stove or an electric heater or a propane heater or whatever in the greenhouse, because of course if you have plants growing in there, you can't let it get below freezing or whatever temperature they can handle even for a minute, or they will all die and you'll lose all your work. So having to maintain heating in a whole separate building is just another challenge. So if it's attached to the house, my idea would, we still plan to heat with wood, and the idea would be you could open those doors from the house into the greenhouse to let out the extra heat from the wood stove to warm the greenhouse space when it's cold enough to warrant that, without having to have a whole extra wood stove. That would just be using the excess heat. As you probably know, in here, even with my tiny, tiny little stove, normally in the winter I end up with windows open because wood is not a precise heat. It's not like setting your thermostat at a particular, you want it to be 69 degrees in the house and it just stays there. Wood heat gets hotter and it gets cooler, but often it can have excess heat, and so just ventilating the excess heat into the greenhouse would require no extra work. And then the other cool thing is that on sunny days, when the sun actually comes into that greenhouse, it can make a greenhouse super hot on a sunny day, even if it's minus 30 degrees outside. So then we could open the door and let greenhouse heat in to warm the house up as well. So that's been something, I've seen a few people do something like that, and that's something I've wanted for a very, very long time, to be able to have a little greenhouse sunroom, and maybe even a place to, you know, sit on a chair or something like that out there and enjoy looking at the plants and soaking up the sun even when it's really cold outside. So that would probably be the kind of greenhouse we'd end up with. That would allow me to grow a few things all winter long. Starts on my own starts, because things like the cabbages and such that we can eat a ton of, there's not a long enough growing season here through the summer to plant them from seed and get a mature head before everything goes under snow in the winter. So it's helpful to have little started plants, and I've bought them from a local greenhouse, but I'd rather start my own if I had a place where I could do that. So it would let me do some of those things, and that's definitely in the long-term plans for those wondering about a greenhouse. Also, for food storage from what comes out of the garden, a root cellar is definitely in the long-term plans. Exactly where that will go, I don't know. I'd like it to be something that could be accessible from the house without having to like bundle up and shovel snow to go get a bag of potatoes or whatever in the winter. So we have to do a little work on our design for how we want that, but it would be fully underground. If you're not familiar with the root cellar, it's where you're using just the consistent soil temperature down. Frost line here goes down 55 inches plus. It stays about at that if you are in an area where there's just the snowpack on the ground. If you're in an area where you like plow because it's your lane, the frost can go much, much deeper, 12 feet or more down. But if it's in an area where you don't disturb the snowpack on top of the ground, which makes a pretty good insulation, then it stays pretty consistent temperature, down at that level. And then you're just using that consistent ground temperature to maintain a consistent temperature in your underground room, basically. And that's how a root cellar works. And they're good for, as you might guess from the name, keeping roots. Things like potatoes and carrots, even whole cabbages store well. Things like apples store well. Almost anything that you would keep cool but not cold stores well in a root cellar. So that is something that we hope to have as part of that whole project. Again, that's down the road and isn't going to be tomorrow, but that's something else a lot of people ask. Several people ask, don't you plan to plant some trees? I guess they haven't even watched most of the recent videos. We've planted a little over 230 trees and bushes right now, taking a break for the whole summer here because until these last few days of rain, it has been just blistering hot, brutally dry. The area is in, extreme drought, extreme fire danger, all of that. And so just trying to keep alive everything that we got planted last fall and this spring has been a major project, and the heat of summer is just not a good time to plant or transplant trees and such anyway, but hopefully it will be cooler toward fall and we'll probably plant some more, and then I hope to plant at least a few more every year probably for most of the rest of my life, but it probably won't be in the hundreds every year, and hopefully if I can keep, what we've got growing, they'll soon be big enough that you can notice them and see that we've planted some trees. I'm trying to think what the other most common questions I got. I don't know, that's all I can think of that I got asked most frequently. So that's kind of the long-term plans here. For now, we are a little cramped with the two of us in the tiny house. Again, when it was just me, I didn't feel like that at all. It worked great for a single person. And like I said, I know people who are very, happily together with 2 or more people in tiny houses, just with our lifestyle and the things we've got going on, the amount of clothing layers and boots alone we have just to deal with the weather makes that a little cramped. And so yeah, at some point, again, when the time to build, because Clay is a professional builder, and so we would be building the house ourselves, so then you'll get to see lots of cool videos of that. So the time to construct that, and then the materials prices to hopefully come back down to something that we can actually afford. We hope to get a little house up. If there's a little house up, it will probably have some kind of root cellar attached to it and probably some kind of greenhouse attached to it. Might also put some kind of little entry awning on this door, on the tiny house too at some point. That's something I'd thought about doing all the years that I have lived in here. Probably something that could be detachable again if you did want to move the house down the road. But I never got to it, and so maybe that'll happen too. sometimes it'd be nice to just, like this area over here is kind of the mud room right now where you bring in all your boots and shoes and hang all your clothes and coats to dry, and it would be nice just to be able to keep that a little bit more out of the house at times. So anyway, that's kind of our long-term goals, but these are long-term goals. None of this is happening next week. I'm busy enough right now just trying to keep after the garden and all the trees and bushes and stuff I've planted. Trying to actually finish transplanting the rest of the flowers and herbs that were all around the house in its old location. If you follow photos on MeWe, you just saw a picture the other day of what the old spot looks like right at this moment. Since I am not there anymore, but I am still back and forth some and trying to get the rest of this dug up and transplanted. And again, the weather this year has just been really rough for that because it got so hot and dry, and I wasn't planning on the plants that were left being quite so stressed out without someone there watering them so consistently. But I'm trying to get the rest of those transplanted, keep everything alive that we have here. And right now, the grass and stuff is growing up around it. Grass is my least favorite weed in the entire world. When it's somewhere you don't want it, it's awesome if you have things that eat grass to eat it, but it's very good at trying to crowd other things and choke them out. So I've been going around every tree and bush and pulling back, kind of an open ring, just enough to let the plant grow up without getting choked. And so that's I'm kind of just been busy keeping everything alive. Now the rain the last few days has given us a break from that. Clay's busy with his job right at the moment, and so all that will happen sometime. But for everyone wondering about future plans and are we gonna whatever, that's the gist of what we're thinking right now. And I've learned in life future plans change and things come up, but that's what we're shooting for. Hope you all have a great day. Over here at Nyth, thank you so much for watching these videos and spending some of your very valuable time choosing to do that. We hope you found something that was useful, educational, helpful, maybe save someone else some time and trouble, or just something just plain beautiful. If you don't want to miss any videos, subscribe and hit the bell. And thanks for coming along on our journey as we build a new little homestead with our tiny house and everything to come.